Okay, whilst watching this video, please make sure you are making notes. You'll need a pen and paper ready, and just jot down anything that you think will be important and you'll need to remember. You can listen again. This is obviously a recording, so at any point you need to rewind and repeat something, make sure you do. But be prepared to pause throughout, as occasionally I will ask you to stop to read something or complete an activity. And make sure you do the activity. Real learning does come from actively participating, not passively listening. Okay, so to begin with, here is a starter set of questions. What I'd like you to do now is just have a quick go at these, no more than a few minutes. Pause it, and then when you restart, we can go through the answers. Okay, the answers for these, first of all, the rectangle had 36 meters squared, while the triangle had 31.5 meters squared. Don't forget to half the area of a triangle. The rectangle was bigger. Simplifying the ratio, both of those are in the 8 times table, so that's 3 to 5. The area of the circle, well, area is pi times radius squared, and in this case the radius was 5. So pi times 5 squared, or 25 pi, which gives us a area of 78.5 centimeters squared, rounded to 1 decimal place. And finally, fencing costs £12 per metre. I want to put a fence around the entire field shown below. How much will this cost? Well, the question about putting up a fence is perimeter, so you need all 4 sides, so there is 28 metres of fence in total, and times that by £12 per metre gives you £336. Okay, today we will be doing a series of work on circumference of circles. So if you just pop a title down of circumference. Okay, so the most important thing you're going to need to take from this today is that to find the circumference, which you should know is the whole way around a circle, you do pi and you times it by the diameter. Okay, shorthand we use C equals pi d, or pi times d. Make sure you've got those down. That is extremely important, and you must be able to not only remember that, but also make sure you're not mixing up with the area formula you would have done previously. Okay, so here is a very typical sort of find the circumference question. So it wants to know what is the circumference of the circle. It hasn't specified a rounding accuracy, so I'll probably use 1 decimal place. So our formula is pi times diameter. Well, the diameter was 10, so really the circumference is pi times 10, or 10 pi, if you want to leave it in terms of pi. Your calculator should tell you that is 31.4159, etc., which rounds to 1 decimal place as 31.4 centimeters. Okay, so that is literally going to be pi times diameter, and then round it appropriately. Make sure you do not round too early, particularly later on. That will cause a few inaccuracies and rounding errors. Okay, here this one wants the circumference of the circle again, but we don't have a diameter. Our formula is circumference is pi times diameter, but I've given you a radius. Therefore, on this question, we need to double the radius, and we're doing pi times 6, which is the diameter. Therefore, it gives us 18.849 on the calculator, which rounds to 1 decimal place, 18.8 centimeters. Be really, really careful that when you're seeing circumference and area questions of circles, do you have the radius? Do you have the diameter? Which one do you actually need? Because it's not always going to give you the thing you need. You're going to have to work it out. So I'd like you to pause it here and try and give these 2 questions a go. Okay, so the first question, the diameter is given, it's 12 centimeters, so we just do pi times 12, and that rounds a 1 decimal place to 37.7 centimeters. The other question, I've only given you the radius, so I've doubled that, pi times 9, 28.3 when rounded. Okay, here are a series of sort of mixed circumference questions. I'd like you to have a go at these, please. First thing you need to check each time, do I have a diameter? Do I have a radius? because if it's circumference, we're only really interested in the diameter at this stage. Okay, give yourself a few minutes to have a go at these, and then I'll put the answers up afterwards. Okay, the answers are here on screen. Sorry, they're a little bit faded, particularly on question D. That says 22.8. If you got it wrong, the most likely culprit is that, for example, on question B, you didn't double the radius to get 5 meters as the diameter. That's the most common thing that will have gone wrong. So if you've got B, E, and H wrong, is it because you didn't double the radius? Okay, here we have questions asking about arc lengths and perimeters of a semicircle and a quarter circle. We're going to start with just this semicircle over here. It wants your answer to 1 decimal place, and it's first interested in the arc length of a semicircle, then it wants the perimeter of the semicircle, and I've purposely given you both of these at the same time so you can see the difference. So the arc length of a semicircle, what we do is we use the pi times diameter rule that we had before, but because I only have a semicircle, half of a circle, I'm going to divide by 2. And that is going to give me 12.566370 on my calculator. That is my arc length. It's this curved bit here. That's why it's called an arc length, because it's the length of an arc. Okay? So if you have part of a circle, it wants to know the arc length. What you need to do is do your normal pi times diameter, but then divide by 2 to get the semicircle. However, that's only our arc length. Question B wanted perimeter. Perimeter is the whole way around, so you want your arc length plus this distance here, which is our diameter of 8 centimeters. So we're going to do our arc length plus our diameter, add the two together, and then round it. 20.6 centimeters for the whole way around the perimeter. Okay, next we have a quarter circle. It again wants to know the arc length and the perimeter. The big difference here is obviously we only have a quarter instead of a half. And I'm hoping you can guess that when we had a half, we divide by 2. So when we have a quarter circle, we're going to divide by 4. So pi times 6 divide by 4, because it is the diameter we're interested in. I've only given you the radius, and you need to compensate for that. Pi times 6 divided by 4 will give you 4.71238889. That is the curved bit, the arc length. Question B, though, is the perimeter. So we're going to take that and we're going to add on a diameter, because we've got one radius here and one radius here. Well, that's the equivalent of having a diameter. Okay, so we're going to do the arc length plus 6 for the diameter. And when we round the answer, we're going to get 10.7 centimeters. Okay, so for both these questions, what we did was we used our pi times diameter formula. We divided to adjust for the size of the sector we're using. In this case, a quarter, so we divided by 4, or a half, so we divided by 2. We then added the arc length that we had with a diameter in each question. Have a go at these two. You're going to do exactly the same thing. Remember to adjust for the fact you've got a radius in the second question, and don't forget to add on the diameter at the end. Okay, if you did these right, the first thing you would have done is pi times 13 and divided by 2. That would have given you an arc length of 20.42. The arc length then needs to be added to the diameter to get the perimeter, and when we round that, we're going to get 33.4 centimeters. The quarter circle is going to be pi times 10 divided by 4, because it's a quarter, giving us 7.85 for the curve. We're then going to have a perimeter of arc length plus diameter. So our arc length from before plus 10, 17.9. Don't forget it's a diameter, not a radius. Okay, there are 4 more questions like that if you need to keep practicing them. Pause it now and then have a quick go. Okay, the answers to these, first of all, the first one was 23.14. I did these to 2 decimal places. If you did it to 1, that's okay, just be careful just in case it does specify. The second one is 18.00, because when you round the 995, they all go up 1. Third one was 12.50 to 2 decimal places, and the final one was 7.14 to 2 decimal places. Okay, you can also have compound shapes where we combine 2 different shapes. So for this one, for example, the first thing I need to do is I'm looking at this rectangle and I've got a semicircle. So I'm going to do the arc length pi times diameter divided by 2, which is going to give me, the diameter is obviously this bit, and because that's a rectangle, this must also be 5. Okay, so I'm going to do pi times 5 divided by 2, and I'm just going to say for now that's 2.5 pi. Okay, I'm just going to leave that as is so I don't have to worry about rounding error later. Then I need my other side of my rectangle, which is obviously 6 because the side opposite is 6, and then I'm going to do the total perimeter 2.5 pi, the curve, the arc length that I found, plus 6 plus 5 plus 6. 24.85 centimeters. I've rounded it to 2 decimal places. You could have had 24.9 for 1 decimal place. I think any more than that would be not accurate enough. Notice I did not include that distance in my total perimeter. Don't forget, perimeter is the whole way around. Okay, final 2 questions then. For each of these shapes I want the perimeter. Be really careful to think about which lengths that you do need, which ones are missing. Don't forget about rules about radius and diameter. Pause it now. Last 2 questions, let's see what you can do. Okay, first one. The arc length I got to be 5 pi, which is that bit there. Then I'm going to add the 6 and the 8, but not the 10 because that's inside the shape. So I rounded to 2 decimal places, 29.71. 29.7 would have been okay too. The second question, this time I've got a quarter circle, so I'm dividing by 4. But I need this length here first, so I can work out what the radius is. Well, the radius is going to be 5 because it's on the rectangle. So I'm going to do pi times 10 divided by 4. Don't forget, the 5 is a radius, not a diameter. 2.5 pi again, that's coming up a lot today. There we go, I'll just fix that. 2.5 pi. That's a 6 because I've got a rectangle, so I've got an opposite side, and I've got another radius here for 5. Remember, perimeter, I'm not interested in lengths inside, so I'm then going to add up my 2.5 pi, my 6, 5, 6, and 5 again, giving me 29.85 centimeters, or 29.9 if you round to 1 decimal place. Okay, that's all of it. Well done. Thank you very much. Make sure you keep hold of your notes and submit any work to your teacher.